Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll take a look at the week's top stories, including the clean elections lawsuit against Arizona Secretary of State. The Journalist Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Steve Goldstein in for Ted Simons. It's Friday and that means time for the Journalist Roundtable. And joining us tonight, Jeremy Duda from Axios Phoenix, Howie Fisher from Capital Media Services, and Cameron Sanchez from KJZZ Radio. Thank you all for being here. All right, Howie, so the No Labels Party had some high hopes going into 2024. They claimed they were going to be this very special party, put together a ticket that was going to appeal to people who didn't want Democrats or Republicans. That imploded. In Arizona, we saw Paul Johnson, who was involved in an open primary effort, take over No Labels and change its name, which is now causing a kerfuffle. So what is Clean Elections upset about? Why are they suing over this?
Well, it becomes an interesting question. Can you just change the name of a party? You know, can the Democrats come in and say, we are now the left-wing party or the right-wing party or whatever we want to call it? And it's not just changing the name of the party. It means that everybody who's with that party is suddenly re-registered under the new party. Now, they say a couple of things. A, it's confusing, particularly if you go in to register and it says Arizona Independent Party, but wait, I wanted to be a true independent as unaffiliated. And B, does Fontes have the authority to unilaterally? Now, he's saying nothing stops me from doing it. Clean Elections saying, well, nothing allows you to do it. So we're going to get a judge to find out.
And so Fontes is saying what, Jeremy?
That, you know, what he said when he approved it, said nothing in the law prohibits me from doing this. He saw no reason to not approve this request, and so he thinks the authority is there. And Secretary Fontes often takes kind of an expansive view of the authority of the offices he's in, but the law does appear to be very silent on this. And I don't know that we've ever actually had a party say, hey, we want to completely change our name to something new. And you know, as Howie mentioned, there's the issues that Clean Elections raised about it being very confusing, and voters are going to be confused. Do they mean to be an independent where you get to vote in a Republican or Democratic primary as opposed to an independent party? But it seems like, I mean, that's what took up most of the Clean Elections lawsuit, most of the actual space. But it seems like the issue is just really going to come down to one thing. Can you actually, does the law allow this? Because whether it's confusing, I don't think that's how relevant that'll be to the law. That if that would stop, because that would mean that you couldn't actually start a new party called the Independent Party, and I don't see what would stop that. I think the actual authority issue is what everything is going to rest on.
But it comes down to what if, let's say, No Labels decided we're going to call ourselves the real Democratic Party. Is that confusing? Can they simply do that? And that's where it's this whole untested area. And as you point out, and Cameron and I have been both covering this for a while. Just some judge is going to have to decide where's the line in terms of the secretary's power.
Well, Cameron, that's obviously the most important question, but from a political standpoint, the idea that Arizona, obviously Maricopa County especially, has so many independents or non-affiliated voters, is there an argument that people will make that even if there's a tiny bit of confusion? I was thinking about the Chris Mays-Abe Hamadeh race, which we've all talked about. 280 votes separated them. What if 281 people were confused and didn't really know which party to vote for? I mean, does that, I'm leaving the legal realm, of course.
Yeah, absolutely part of the Clean Elections argument. What if people are confused? What if they're disenfranchised? What if they feel left out of the process because they thought they were with one party or they thought they were unaffiliated and then they weren't able to vote, especially in the primary where you're supposed to, as an unaffiliated voter, actually request a ballot. Now, Paul Johnson argues, and he's the chair of the AIP or the non-No Labels Party or whatever we're calling it. He says, well, there is precedent for this in American history, maybe not so much in recent Arizona history, but in American history, parties have changed their name repeatedly, including the Democratic Party, including the Republican Party. And at one point, I do believe we had an American Independent Party. So he's saying, why is this any different? He's accusing Clean Elections of basically doing the work of the Democrats and Republicans who have been fighting him at every turn.
Yeah. Jeremy, what do you think?
Well, I think there's a lot of issues besides the core legal issues here. I mean, a lot of other issues are, about voters being confused about how this affects the primaries, about how this affects the actual nuts and bolts of administering elections and voter rolls. And that's where you've seen some objections from the governor's office, from county recorders, from the motor vehicle department, where they have the drop-down menu that says, which party you want to register for. The technical details are where you're going to run into a lot of problems with this if the courts allow the name change to move forward.
And this also masks the larger issue. If I want to run if I'm a registered Republican for statewide office, I need about 7,000 signatures to get on the ballot. Democrats a little less because it's based on party registration. If Jeremy, if he's politically independent, whatever the hell that means anymore, wants to run, he would need like 43,000 signatures just to qualify for the ballot. And that was the whole reason that Paul Johnson said we need an Arizona Independent Party. We stand for nothing, although if you look at their website, that's different. So the question becomes, does this then open the door for a federal court lawsuit to challenge under 14th Amendment, under equal protection, the question of should independents be discriminated against?
Does this open up the effort again to try, whether in 28 or whenever, this open primary thing again?
Well, the open primary, again, the parties, as we all know, hate that kind of thing. You get jungle primaries like they have in California. You have open primaries, which did have wide open primaries. We have a semi-open primary here, which, as Cameron pointed out, a political independent, and they're about 35% of the voters.
You could have a top two system potentially.
Can pick a Republican ballot, a Democratic ballot, and people are a little hesitant to change what's there. I mean, we had the ranked choice voting thing. That got defeated. Open primaries got defeated. People are a little hesitant. They say, I understand the current system, and I don't know that they're willing to change it.
Yeah. Cameron, let's move on to SNAP benefits. Obviously, people were distraught over what happened with the extended federal government shutdown, and now we have the Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Collins, threatening to withhold SNAP benefits from certain states if they don't share certain data. So I'll phrase it this way. What certain data and what kind of certain states? What do they have in common?
They're a little Democratic, I would say. There's a little bit of a trend. They happen to be sort of blue. Don't know why that is. No, but the information is basically personal information about the recipients, things like their names, things like, the states collect. But there's concern from these Democratic states that is a privacy violation, and they don't really trust what the Trump administration plans to do with this information. Now, the Trump administration and the USDA says, well, we need this to root out fraud in the program because this is a big federal program. It's very expensive. We want to make sure it's not being abused. And I think the state's response to that has been, well, there's already an injunction. Chris Mays for Arizona was part of the coalition that took it to court, and there is currently an injunction from a federal judge in San Francisco preventing the withholding of SNAP benefits. So we'll see.
Now, this is a little bit, it looks like the Trump administration feels like they've found maybe a little bit of a loophole around these previous rulings, because it's been going on all year. I think it was back in February, the administration wanted this information, immigration status most notably. The states told them to go kick rocks, the blue states at least, the Democratic-run states. The court stopped them from doing this. This isn't the actual food aid that we were talking about, during the shutdown last month. This is administrative funds the states use to actually manage the program, which is, obviously not quite as big as the $150 million a month that the state uses for SNAP benefits. Still important money, though, and despite that, the Attorney General's office still feels like this is illegal under those previous rulings, and they're getting ready to lawyer up and go back to court again, as I'm sure about 24 other states probably are.
Well, but it comes down to, if you want to call it the golden rule, he who has the gold makes the rules. Well, the feds provide all food stamp benefits. They provide at least 50% of the administrative costs, and they say we're entitled to it. The problem becomes, and we've seen with this administration, we don't know what they're going to do with the data. I mean, look, we have a Secretary of War who doesn't know you don't use Signal to talk about war plans. And so their record on secrecy, their record on keeping confidential what should be confidential is not great. And so there's a certain worry there. Now, can they do something with that? Can they do something about, we found somebody who we don't think is here legally? That leads into a whole nother problem, whereas if, given the documentation that's around there, will they end up disqualifying people who really are legally entitled to it? And that gets into a whole question of how good a job does the federal government do in vetting people?
Well, Cameron, let's segue into some topics about Governor Hobbs here. How has Governor Hobbs specifically responded to this Brooke Rollins, which she said?
Stronger than she typically does to whatever is going on with the Trump administration. We talked to her this week, and she said, this is outrageous. I'm going to fight it. You're not getting that data from us. And also, we do have a vetting system. We don't just let, random people come in and say, could I please have, hundreds of dollars for my snacks this week? We actually have a system where people are checked, and we keep track of them, and don't you worry about it. Now, of course, there is fraud because it's a federal program with money, so there's a little bit of fraud. But she says that, relatively speaking, our fraud is quite small.
Well, and Jeremy, what strikes me is that I would go back to what Cameron said about Governor Hobbs coming out more strongly about this, because I'm an old cynic, not quite as old as Howie, but you know, when a politician says something like this and acts a little bit out of character, makes me think, oh, an election's coming up. How much is she factoring into this?
Well, that's always going to be a factor, but also keep in mind that this is an issue near and dear to the governor's heart. She's a former social worker. Remember, just a few weeks ago, just last month, when we had the shutdown and the SNAP, much more money in SNAP benefits were at risk. She was very strident about that issue, much more so than she has been with the Trump administration in most cases. She tries to at least find a little bit of common ground. She's not really taking the Chris Mays, sue 'em all approach.
Well, but it goes beyond that. It's easy for her on this to say these are poor people. When it comes to border security, that's where she gets a little fuzzy, and we've seen that in terms of, well, I'm always willing to work with the Trump administration. I have a border security plan, and we have a task force. We're putting all this money because she recognizes, again, election year, that immigration issues are on the minds of people. Food stamps is a much easier one to say these are people who are needy. I mean, you're talking about people who are making, I think it's 133% of the federal poverty level, which I think for a family of three is probably around $30,000 a year, and that's depends on how you count for housing expenses and everything else. So these, is there fraud? Yes, you're right, but there are people who qualify. What's interesting is this gets into a whole other thing. We have people working for state government who qualify for things like this, who qualify for Medicaid and things like that, which goes to the question of, are state government paying enough? Is Walmart paying enough? And should we be helping subsidize Walmart by giving people food stamps?
Well, speaking of other benefits, I think Hobbs said she's also frustrated with this is not the first time that the Trump administration has said, hey, we're going to withhold Medicaid, we're going to withhold SNAP. We have money that you need for these programs that help people, and you're going to let those people suffer if you don't do what we want. And she says that that's wrong and that's immoral, and that you're basically leveraging the people that we need to help the most to sort of score political points and move on with your agenda.
I'm shocked that the Trump administration would do that.
But I do think it relates to her background, because she is passionate and more, I think, probably knowledgeable and experienced on those issues.
So I'm guessing the three of you are very excited. Next month, new legislative session begins, so you guys probably have a party coming up on that. To that end, Howie, let's talk a little bit about what Governor Hobbs wants to do in cutting personal income taxes. And yet, is there a direct tie to cutting taxes as long as we save some money with ESAs?
Oh, of course. Now, we have to remember the backstory on this. Congress passed the big, beautiful bill. Has a whole bunch of provisions in there, including some of the stuff we've discussed tonight, but also has a bunch of tax cuts, including individual tax cuts, higher standard deduction, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, things like that, plus some business tax cuts, making it easier for a company to write off some of its new purchases. Now, remember, not a single Democrat in Congress voted for this thing. All of a sudden, here's the governor looking around. Oh, well, let's see, I'm running for re-election. These are my middle-class tax cuts. And she took out all the individual stuff, said, this is mine, it's $215 million, which raised the question, wait a second, Governor, didn't your chief financial officer just tell us we're in deep kimchi here, if you want to call it that, on finances? Oh, no, we'll find it. Well, where are you going to find it? Well, one of the places is she has tried every year, as we know, since being elected, to eliminate or curtail universal vouchers. Her last plan was to say, if a family earns up to $100,000, you can keep getting vouchers. $100,000 to $200,000, you get partial, nothing above that. That didn't even get a hearing. But somehow she believes that, yes, this time they will see the light and do this to trade off with the tax cuts.
Yeah, Cameron.
I think it comes down to putting people on the record about these things, because she's, as Howie said, cherry-picking the parts that she likes and saying, well, this can be my plan. You guys like this, don't you, Republicans? Tax cuts. Let's all be on the same page. Why don't you come here and say to the public that you want to make tax cuts to corporations and billionaires? And why don't you come to the public and say that you want to keep giving money to people who are making $200,000+ a year so they can send their kids to private schools? And you put yourself on the record saying that, because my plan would pay for both the middle class tax cuts and public education. And I think that's what she's hoping the message is that comes out of this. Not that she's picking and stealing stuff from Trump while saying that she hates Trump and is maybe coming off to some folks as more hypocritical.
Sure, but in the meantime, the Republicans are coming back saying, well, we actually want some of the other tax. This isn't going far enough. There's more cuts we'd like to see here. And I'm pretty sure they could probably find some other areas besides the ESA program, to which they are very, very committed, to make some other cuts to make some room for this. Because the ESA thing, I mean, we can just go back and replay the conversation we had right here a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The result will be the same unless you can, click your heels together 3 times and say, change this program. That's the only way this is really going to happen, unless the Democrats can take the legislature.
So we know Chris Mays likes to file lawsuits. Is she going to file a suit against Tom Horne over ESA management, et cetera?
Well, she's certainly going down that path, isn't she? She and Tom Horne, as you can imagine, are not on the same page about this. And Tom Horne is saying, well, you're not doing your job as the Attorney General. And of course,
well, he would know, having been a former Attorney General.
Well, yeah, exactly. He would know. I'm not sure if that's the route that she's going to go yet, or if it's just in the early stages of making statements for now.
And what's tricky is what she's objecting to is what they call risk-based auditing. In other words, we know that, particularly for parents who homeschool, not the parents who are sending their kids to the private schools and the $7,000 goes there, that they have some expenses. Well, some of them are legitimate in terms of curriculum. I'm not sure the pregnancy test fits into that, but that was one of the things that they found, the Rolex watch, things like that, trips to theme parks. And what he said is, look, you haven't given me any more money to do this, so what I'm going to do is anything below, I think it's $2,000, we will let it go through and audit it later, being able to capture it back. I don't know, as much as Chris would love to take on Tom Horne, that risk-based auditing is necessarily illegal. Now, she wants to attack the legislature, say give them more money, but I don't think there's a lawsuit there. I mean, let me put it this way. I don't think there's a viable lawsuit there. Does that mean she won't file it? That's a whole other question.
Sure, and Horne says, I have the same number of, he doesn't have any more employees than he used to have. He's the same number for, billion-dollar program that he had for, $150,000 program, $150 million program, whatever it was. But politically, this might be he might be kind of hoping he gets sued here. Politically, on the right, he's getting attacked in the primary by Kimberly Yee saying, hey, you're too strict on this ESA program. You're being too tough on it. Parents want to see these things loosened up for school choice purposes. And here he is getting attacked by the left, and he is getting to kind of publicly be the defender of the program, saying, if you don't like what I'm doing, you go ahead and take me to court.
So, Cameron, earlier this afternoon, poor Representative Adelita Grijalva, who had to wait the longest in history to actually get seated in Congress, apparently during an ICE raid at a Tucson restaurant, she got pepper sprayed. What do we know at this point?
Well, this is a pretty new story. So she posted online that she was at this restaurant that she goes to quite often. I think she was probably just there for lunch. And basically there was some sort of ICE activity happening. People had come out into the street. They were in the streets protesting, yelling. It was a very intense environment, and you can see agents there. She seems to get sprayed in this video that she posted partially. I don't want to speculate because I wasn't there. I only saw the one angle of it, but she seems to have gotten some of it. And then later in the video, as she's walking, it looks like something is shot maybe at her feet, something smoky, perhaps one of those pellets, I'm not sure. She says she was there peacefully asking questions as a member of Congress. She's saying that this is not okay behavior, that the community was concerned about people being taken off the streets without due process, all of the concerns that we've heard from Democrats as these things play out. But as of now, the actual details of that raid are not known. And
the tricky part is, she says, as a member of Congress, I have certain rights. And it is true that you can go to one of these federal detention centers and ask to come in. The response from Homeland Security is, excuse me, you can't, in the middle of a police action, come in and start questioning the officers there and say, but look, I have my little congressional ID card here. And that only goes so far. Now, there's a larger question here, and we've seen this all across the nation, of whether the folks who ICE has employed, and they've been in a real binge in terms of hiring people, are properly trained to understand crowd control. We've seen way too many things from all across the nation of breaking windows on cars, knocking people down, pulling people out of homes. And so there's a larger question here of, do they need better training, or is this in fact what the Trump administration wants? They want this so they can say, look, now we need troops on the street.
Well, and Tucson's a community, Jeremy, that's been hit even harder by this. Obviously, a very left-of-center city, and Adelita Grijalva really represents that community well in this case. I don't know if in another community, if that happened, if there'd be more pro and con on this one. In this case, it really looks like she's on the side of right, at least to that community.
Oh, very much. It's a very, very deep blue district, and she's she has not been in Congress for very long, and not and shorter than she probably anticipated to do that at extra long wait. But she's certainly kind of making the most out of the short amount of time since her election, and done a lot to raise her profile between, Mike Johnson refusing to swear her in, between talking about other, ICE raids earlier this week where she was objecting to their conduct, people coming in without warrants. So she's definitely kind of making a name for herself early.
Well, she's learning from the best. Look at our two senators. Mark Kelly is taking every bit of advantage that he can that President Trump has singled him and 5 others out for saying what is in fact on the walls of West Point, which is that you're not required to obey illegal commands. Ruben has been out there, Ruben Gallego has been out there saying, look, you're going after the wrong people. Arizona has a long history for a relatively small state, it's getting bigger, of people in Congress who tend to elbow their way to the top. People like Goldwater, people like John Rhodes. And there's a long history here of folks saying, we're from Arizona, you're not going to ignore us.
Well, just a few seconds, Cameron. Adelita Grijalva, Mark Kelly, is all this attention going to be good for them ultimately as people who are going to make a difference?
I think their profiles are being raised, and depending on what they're going for, that could definitely be impactful. For example, if one of them wanted to run for a higher office down the road, I think the response is a little bit mixed as to what they're doing now. Mark Kelly, especially, the Republicans, I think some of the independents are on the fence about, why did you do this in the first place? Were you just trying to stir up some stuff?
Okay. Cameron, Jeremy, Howie, of course, Howie, thank you all for being here for the Journalist Roundtable. That's all for this edition of Arizona Horizon. I'm Steve Goldstein in for Ted Simons. Thank you very much for watching.
Hello, I'm Alice Ferris, and we hope you enjoyed Arizona Horizon. For more than 40 years, viewers in Arizona have relied on Ted Simons and Arizona Horizon for in-depth